Welcome to the Culinary Conversations, presented by Whole Foods Market. My name is Mike Jordan, Atlanta-based multimedia journalist, culture writer that specializes sometimes in food. It is a pleasure for me to introduce this next session in our Jubilee series. But first, I'd like to make sure to acknowledge our session sponsor, Lodge Cast Iron. Lodge is a family-owned business founded in 1896 in South Pittsburgh, Tennessee. Lodge Cast Iron has become iconic for its versatility and durability. Many skillets are handed down from one generation to the next. The company continues to innovate with products like the lightweight Black Lock line, which boasts triple seasoned quality. And now, for the introduction of two incredible culinary leaders, Toni Tipton-Martin and Chef Todd Richards. Between them, they've authored multiple cookbooks, award-winning books about food and culture, and they have been at the forefront of recognizing the immensely important contributions of African Americans that we play and continue to play in food and culture. Chef Todd and Toni, welcome to the Decatur Book Festival. And shout out to South Pittsburgh, Tennessee, where my dad's family's from, and shout out to Lodge Cast Iron. Y'all enjoy it.
Hey there, Decatur Book Festival fans. Thanks so much for joining us. It is a thrill for me to be here with one of my best pals, Todd Richards. I have to confess, this is my first time being in the host chair. So bear with me. We're going to have a lot of fun as friends, and I hope we can share some information that'll be educational and fun, and that we'll all just have a great time. So I want to thank the festival for hosting us. And what I had taken before COVID to calling the Jubilee dinner series, right? So when my book Jubilee was published last year, I had this idea that rather than doing the traditional book tour where you go to bookstores and sit and sign books at a table, I wanted to promote Black excellence past in the book as well as the present, and turn a spotlight on all of our amazing colleagues in the food world, chefs, restaurateurs, authors, everybody, mixologists, everybody that's turning the page and making the food industry even more exciting than it already was. And so COVID comes along and we needed to pivot. So tonight we're going to be talking about the pivot, the COVID pivot. And the fact that, I'm essentially here to carry on that same tradition we conceived of for the book tour, which is to learn a lot more about African Americans in the industry. Not so much about our struggles, but that certainly is an important part of the conversation, but really talking about what we're doing to uplift the message of who we are and who we've been so that we can inspire the next generation of cooks. So so I'm here with Todd Richards, as I said, and I'll tell you a little bit about how I met Todd and how I chose him to be my first guest, if you will. In 2015, before the Jemima Code, which is over his shoulder, he's so kind to be promoting it. The year that Jemima Code was headed to the printer, I had an event in Austin, Texas. I'm not an event planner, but as a founder and first president of Southern Foodways Alliance, I always wanted to have an African-American, exclusively African-American food conference. And so we patterned an event over the course of a weekend, over Juneteenth weekend, and I knew nothing about food service, about catering, about how to host an event. But I reached out to Todd, who I had met, I think once, we met once someplace, or maybe I even heard of you, just your reputation preceded you. But so I reached out to Todd and invited him and other chefs to join us in Austin. And without hesitation, he said yes. But that's not the most important thing I want to share about my relationship with Todd and how we became friends. Todd sent me a text after we began talking about Soul Summit, and he said, I will do whatever you need to help you get this event off the ground. I know about what chefs need in terms of space and how to make this a success. And we want this to be a success. And he opened his heart and his knowledge base and skill set and flew into Austin and showed me what I needed to do to put on an amazing weekend. And so this is just my moment to be able to say thank you.
You're welcome, of course.
I love you, of course. And so now let's just, you know, with that as backdrop for kind of who we are and what our relationship is, I want to give Todd a chance to, oh, well, let me tell you one more thing. So the other reason that we're here together is as part of that Jubilee dinner series, we visited with chefs who had a role in the Jubilee book. And so Todd's recipes, 2 of them are spotlighted in Jubilee. So we'll be talking about that as we go along, but I wanted to make sure that you were aware that, that we also have that special connection in Jubilee. And when he launched his book, Soul, I flew into Chicago to be there for him, and we talked together. So tell us, Todd, a little bit about you as a chef and how a chef creates, you know, goes kind of outside of the box of the restaurant and creates a beautiful book like Soul.
I don't know, to be honest, to be honest with you. I am not an author. And thank you, first of all, thank you for the wonderful introduction. You probably cannot tell how much I'm blushing over here. Most people do know me as a very quiet, reserved person, but you always bring out the most emotions in me, and when we talk about food and Black culture. So I thank you for that. You know, when I started writing Soul, I seen a lot of cookbooks that told our story, but kind of told it in the same type of way. Meaning it was mostly illustrations. The recipes were kind of in the same format. They were using the same ingredients and maybe even the same techniques. And they only centered around only a part of our culture and really didn't explore our entire part of our culture. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to really say that our culture has so much diversity in the way we cook. And I look at that in my own home, growing up as a kid, that my mom's family came out of Carolinas through Alabama, Ohio, and Chicago. My dad's family came out of Louisiana. My mom put butter in the water to make rice. My dad would never eat rice that had butter in the water, you know, out of Louisiana. So I always grew up with 2 different pots of rice on the stove. You know, for every meal that had rice, my mom would cook 1 pot of rice, my dad would cook another pot of rice.
Wow.
And rice culture was something that I grew up on because I grew up with 2 different ways of eating rice. And just in my household, everything was diverse in the way food was approached. And I knew that I could not be the only person, you know, living that way, nor am I the only chef that cooks the way that I do. You know, a lot of my friends know Dwayne Nuther, to mention, we go way, way back. He was just here in Atlanta. And then, you know, if I go, Carla Hall, you have Mashama, and I have, all this gamut of wonderful chefs. And though if you just looked at us on the surface, everyone would think that we cook the same. However, we cook so differently. But our techniques are so sound. I really wanted to showcase that, 1, that we are a diverse bunch of cooks. 2, that our techniques are as sound as any French or Japanese or anyone else in the world. 3, that our food is delicious. And 4, that on the other side of it, that the same pot of collard greens that you were only paying $5 for, when you understand the technique, you really should be paying $15 for, because of the knowledge base of the people that are cooking.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I was going to try to figure out how to segue into the discussion of the collard greens. Mm-hmm. Because I had a special connection to you in the conversation about collard greens and the stems. And so when I saw the cover of this book, mm-hmm. I was so elated because of the pride that I felt mm-hmm. In your claiming that soul food is wonderful, and that collard greens are a star ingredient to be revered. And yet you have this amazing philosophy about the stems and saving the stems. And it was the first time I ever heard anybody, you were the first time I ever heard anybody speak in praise of stems, right? And give respect and honor to what we're, cleverly, trendily calling, the waste not movement, or
Right. Mm-hmm.
Black people had been doing that all along.
Right.
And it was
For
being
years,
perceived as,
Mhm.
this negative survival mechanism. And you spoke so eloquently about the stems. So can you share that story and tell us a little bit about, the decision to put collards on the cover of the book?
I mean, collard greens to me is the most beautiful representation of soul food. They're versatile. They stand tall in the winter. They persevere over other vegetables, and they're ancient as well. Most people may not know how ancient collard greens are. They've been around for thousands of years. You can find them in every parts of Africa, and especially in the Mesopotamia area. But what I learned about the stems, or really learned from my dad and his frugality, and saying that, why would I throw this away? And if you really bite into the stem of a collard green, all that juice and all that flavor is inside of there. So what my dad would do is he would save the pickle juice, heat it, and just pour the juice over the stems and cook them. And we had, pickled collard green stems, and that was our relish. We would chop them, we'll put them on a ham sandwich, we'll put them on a turkey sandwich, on a burger. I mean, they were absolutely fabulous on a burger. And that's the way that I grew up eating it. And it was not necessarily out of survival or anything. It's just that my dad always said that I would never waste something that I can make delicious.
Right.
And it gave me a different perspective of being Black. On one hand, someone tells me that, watermelon is bad, and yet everyone wants it. Don't eat the white meat of watermelon, but everyone wants to pickle it. Grow collard greens, but just only serve the leaves because you don't know how to cook the stems. I mean, those are the things that I'm saying, is that it was not survival. It was always the techniques that we had that allowed us, to persevere through the slavery and things like Jim Crow and everything. It's not just a matter of some fairy dust that is a soul food movement. It was actually a technique. And that goes back to us being, great cooks and great people with one with the earth.
Yeah, that's a great story. And so when you thought about integrating soul dishes, knowing the perception and the narrow definition of what it means to cook soul food as survival food, tell us a little bit about the decision-making process in terms of how you arrived at the dishes that are included in soul, because some of them have a very sophisticated, lofty sound, and yet they are made with humble ingredients.
I mean, that's the beauty about cooking, though. I mean, you think about chicken and waffles. Chicken and waffles is, out of the juke joints. It is late night food. But if you use a different type of syrup, like a whiskey syrup that's been aged in a barrel, my favorite waffle is the waffle that we make. We put collard greens and sweet potatoes in our waffle, and that waffle tastes like Thanksgiving dinner to me.
Wait, hold up.
Yes.
How do you, we're off topic a little bit, but how do you get that into the waffle batter? I just have to know.
So literally what we do is that we put the waffle in, we don't close the waffle batter in, we don't close the waffle lid on it. We let it kind of set just a little bit. And then halfway through the cooking process, we add pre-baked sweet potatoes and collard greens to it, and then we close the lid. So then it encompasses the collard greens and the sweet potatoes on top of it. So it's really savory, delicious waffle that kind of tastes like stuffing, but doesn't taste like stuffing. It has this sweet potato and What I really like about it too is that the collard greens get a little bit crispy because of the waffle irons compressing them. So they have this different type of umami that comes out, from the collard green. It would be the same way if you made, like collard green fried rice. The reason why I put that in the book is the same kind of toasty or nutty flavor that you're pulling out of the collard green. And when you could take something like a dish of chicken and waffles, and now you adding collard greens and sweet potatoes to it and whiskey to the syrup, you're making something, more elevated. But really, it's really simple when you think about the way people eat Thanksgiving dinner. Thanksgiving dinner is the most delicious food because it covers the entire palate. Yes, salty ham, you have bitterness from cranberry, you have sweet potatoes, you have vinegar if you use hot sauce, or you have collard greens. It covers the entire mouth. That's why people love Thanksgiving dinner so much.
You're making me hungry. So
I'm getting hungry too.
Well, the thought that I had when you were describing that dish was that that would also provide a solution for people that don't want to have the chicken, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, part of what is the allure to me of chicken and waffles growing up in LA on that dish is the fact that you get the salty and the sweet, in the same bite. And I can hardly eat waffles straight. Like I have to have, and bacon doesn't seem to get it anymore. I don't, I don't know what that's about. But I'm thinking that, you've even hit some vegetarian notes here by, as you said, creating that umami so that people still get the salt and the sweet, but they may not get the meat from, the chicken as we've accustomed to it. Now, where is a person going to get this dish from you?
We serve it, all the time. I always have it, and most people may not know this, and I can tell it here that we are going to be opening Soul as a restaurant, replacing Richard's Southern Fried, and back in Krog Street Market in about 6 to 8 weeks. And that will be one of the dishes on the brunch menu on Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
So is Krog open right now?
It is.
It's still open.
It is.
Okay. But you're going to swap out. So tell us quickly, a little bit about what is happening at that outlet, and so we'll have an understanding of the transition that you're making.
Well, the thing is that with, all cities, everyone had to make a pivot in COVID. And what makes this time great, if you have the ways to be flexible, is to look at your operation, see what changes you need to make, and use this time to really build a better brand moving forward. And that's what I did. I'm taking this time to look at building a better brand moving forward. Started a new restaurant group, Soulful Company Restaurant Group we started. And honestly, all this started while I was ill with COVID. And most people may not have known that I was ill with COVID, but literally I was in the house. I was diagnosed March 30th. I didn't leave the house again until about May 6th. And I took that entire opportunity to rebuild myself, what my focus was going to be in life, how to be a better person, not only for myself, but my family, and a better person for my employees. And open Lake and Oak Barbecue in East Lake and Oakhurst neighborhood. We are reopening Richard Southern Fried as Soul, and we're going to probably plan opening 3-4 more restaurants in the next year or two.
Wow, you are a powerhouse and an inspiration, and I don't mean that to give you the big head, but to say, a lot of us would have just shriveled up and died, right? In the midst of a pandemic and the illness, living the illness yourself and the economic losses of being a restaurateur. And yet you found a way to make that transition. Tell us a little bit about the BBQ Place, because that's a totally different concept than the chicken and waffles.
The thing is back to techniques. And this came straight out. I mean, you talk about what I enjoyed the most when I was cooking with my dad is barbecue. Every birthday, holiday, and so that birthday, that picture of me holding that birthday cake, that was at our house. And the sharing quality I have comes out of my parents. that it was my birthday, it was my cake, and I want everyone to understand it was my cake. But I had my great aunts, 4 cousins, my great grandparents, all of them were listed on the cake as well. And my mom instilled in us at an early age that if you do everything for yourself, then it's not worth doing at all. And that you have to look at the bigger picture. And so, yes, and the same thing with, having COVID. Yeah, I can sit here and shrivel up and say, woe is me, or I can say, I can take this opportunity to look at what's available. How can we reinvest in the community? There's, the jobs report just came out, the August job report just came out. You look at the jobs that were lost, and it was all, everyone who was white collar were least affected by the job loss. It was restaurant workers, healthcare workers, regular people. And so if I can open more restaurants, get people back employed, get them at our living wage, not a minimum wage, and build a company that supports all these ideas and grow an economy and give people hope, then I know that I'm going to be taken care of, because my job is to focus on the employees.
That is so beautiful and generous. And, I want to get back to the bigger picture here in a minute. But, people look at folks like us and think, okay, she's got 2 books behind you, and he's got a book, and he's talking about a restaurant group. So what are the real issues here? Black people can't possibly have issues. Well, we all know that that's not true. That this is a hard slog and a climb for us to achieve at this level. And so how did you get here? What in your background, other than your personality type and your ancestry, right? Your family history that tells you not to give up. And I hear that perseverance 100%. So what happened for you in the investment world, in the financial world? I remember now where we met, which was at One Flew South in the airport. And so tell us a little bit for the next generation that may be questioning a little bit about how can they make it, especially in a pandemic when restaurateurs that have been around for generations are struggling, and Black people haven't had that level of support and backing that maybe you and I have enjoyed. How did you achieve those relationships? And what
I would say that I don't have the backing. I don't have all those things. I don't raise money. I am not good at raising money. What I'm good at is having a vision and talking to people that can do things better than I can do. And there are people out there that do that for a living. It's like, me bringing a finance person into my kitchen and asking them to cook. It doesn't make any sense. So why am I going to sit here and put myself out there trying to raise capital and all that stuff? That's not going to work. And one thing that that you have to learn in this business is, what are you good at? I am good at inspiring people to be better, to operate restaurants, and to make money. The thing is that I made money for everybody else.
Exactly.
And that, right? And those days are over with, how do I make money for myself and for everyone who works with me? And the only way you can do that is to find people that do things better than you do. And you got to get a finance person to understand that. And you also have to understand the numbers yourself. We've heard the stories, in the music industry where someone has, had a contract, and next thing you know, they come out broke on the other side. One thing no one can ever do with me is know my numbers better than me. My staff.
Is that true when you were working for other people too?
Yeah,
how did that work when you were working at Live Oak? What was it called?
White Oak Kitchen and Cocktails. It doesn't matter where it was. And that came from Chef Evans that taught me, in 1993. all the way through down. That knowing your numbers, knowing food costs, labor costs, because then you know how and when you have to make a pivot. You're going to see the trends. You know, when there's a shortage of beef, you you can't, there's a shortage of brisket. Everyone loves brisket for barbecue, but there isn't any. People are not going to pay $40 for barbecue brisket. I'm sorry. But they will if you buy Terrace Major or you do something else. So you have to be current. You have to be an absolute nerd about what you're trying to accomplish. And all the accolades and everything like that, not to say that I care less, but I read them, I enjoy them, and I move on. It's back to work.
Yeah, I hear you, and it does. It is nice, and it does give us the opportunity to share the platform. And I think that that's helpful, and it speaks to going back to your comment about the bigger picture, right? What do you see as the bigger picture and the next steps that we need to be taking as a community?
We have to work together. We have to work together much more. We have to have these kind of conversations, both publicly and privately. And we have to listen to each other. I mean, quite frankly, we do a lot of talking, but I'm not sure how much listening we're doing to each other and understand what each other is great at. If someone does videos better, if you ask me to operate Instagram, yeah, sure, I can. But I know everyone in my kitchen could do it way better than me. So why would I sit here and try to put my own Instagram video on? I'd give it to them, let them do it. They enjoy doing it.
Yeah.
It's really just listening to what people want to do and then giving them the opportunity to do it and working together in order to solve this, this crisis that is still happening, not only in the whole country, but especially in our own community.
So, what kind of obstacles did you face in that process?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of obstacles. I mean, being Black is an obstacle. And anyone who doesn't think that is fooling themselves. You think about the housing crisis and we know who it affects. Well, let me go back a little bit. Most restaurants, small business restaurants, people put up their houses to as collateral for a restaurant. They have equity in a home or something like that. There's very few people who have parents who just write checks, to get them that house. You can't go to a bank. Banks don't loan restaurants money. So you have a house. You have equity in your house. You borrow against that. Now think about with the housing crisis that there's one group of people were affected more than anyone else. There's one group of people once opened restaurants, but they lost their home. How are these people going to open a restaurant? So they're already defeated. They're already lost. So how do we change that paradigm? Well, if I'm a restaurant owner and I know these group of people want to own a restaurant, I can't give them the same percentage that I have, but maybe I can give them a smaller percentage. They can save their money and then take that percentage and move out from under me and open up their own place. See what I'm saying?
You're definitely talking about mentorship. You're talking about incubating almost, helping people.
Yeah, I mean, I'm talking about that the ways that we've done it before do not work. So we have to, find new creative ways in order to get it done. And my way may not work, but if it doesn't work, only thing I'm gonna say, okay, it doesn't work. We're gonna find something else.
Yeah. Well, what I do like about it is you're also, and you're building it on a model that, to circle back to the food, since we're here talking about cookbooks as well, you're building a sustainable model rooted in the fact that our food is diverse. We're a diverse community and the dishes that we prepare are diverse. So the two dishes that I chose, for example, to include in Jubilee that were related to recipes of yours from Seoul, one is as simple as being the baked beans recipe, right? And everybody thinks of baked beans as the thing you take to the cookout and, it's in a crusty. It's got a really crusty surface, and you know,
Right.
all of that. And that is not hardly the depiction that you gave. But I give reference to that to let people know that I took your recipe apart,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I used part of it. But if they want to go back and put it together, you know, that is an expression of reverence to you. By giving attribution to you, we could move on from conversations about appropriations because you're getting the credit for the dish. It just happened to flow through me.
Mm-hmm.
So I noticed that, let me see, what's the name of it? Brick Store Pub
Yes.
has a dish of yours on the menu. Is that just tonight while we're on air, or is it for a period of time?
It is for Wednesday, and
Okay.
it's one of my favorite dishes in the book. And it's hard to have a favorite in the book, but it's the one that chefs really pick the most to cook. You know, Paul did it in Chicago, and now here again, it's the braised chicken wings with onion broth and onion dumplings. And that one to me is it's something about chicken and dumplings, man.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Now
that
see,
is
and because I was fixated on the onion part, I didn't even hear the chicken and dumplings. And so that's the beauty to me of what I was referring to in my work as the chefiness, right? You take something as homespun and comforting as chicken and dumplings, and then you give it this sexy name, right? Onion broth with onion dumplings and braised wings. You just flip the whole script. And what I understand from several of you is that has made reviewers flip out, right? Then your food is somehow inauthentic. It's not really Black. You know, when the reality is you have just played the same music that has been played in food world forever, which is to make the name more fancy, to make it more appealing, to make it more interesting. But that doesn't dilute its soulfulness.
I mean, Ray Charles played country music.
All right then.
I mean, and it still was as soulful as anybody else.
Yeah.
I mean, what is the limits? I mean, yeah, it's chicken and dumplings, but it's also French onion soup. I mean, it's two things together. There is no limit to creativity. Is it a Black dish? I can, yeah, it is. I mean, it's the same way that chicken and dumplings is a Southern dish, but really, what are we talking about? Is it delicious first?
I love that, because the question normally would be, well, what is it about that makes it African American?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
If you hear that one more time,
is
there an answer?
I tell people it's the way spices are applied that can make something distinctly African American. Just like, there's ways that spices are applied that make something, out of Latin culture, which I'm gonna kind of run the same track if you really understand the way food is. You understand chili powders, but that's a whole different, how long we got here? We might be here all night. We start going down that pathway, But it's just those similarities. It's just the similarities. But yeah, it's chicken and dumplings. The only thing is that we didn't emulsify the broth. We didn't add any butter, or we didn't add any cream or anything like that to emulsify it. So, and we use crackers. And really that cracker, I actually took that out of Jewish culture, out of matzo balls. And that's why I wanted to make the dumplings that way, because I wanted to absorb all the liquid so that when you bite it, it actually gets all that broth to fill your mouth with all the broth.
Well, you did something that I didn't do in showing that diversity, which was to claim the title soul. And I see plenty of conversations that would say, for example, that adding that the crackers and the matzo ball interpretation means it isn't African American, it's frontin', it's not really soul. And so I just so respect the fact that you can use your classic training and your chef wisdom to be able to convey what our ancestors were trying to say, which is we have been known for fusion cooking all along, right? And taking a
Right.
little bit of this and a little bit of that and interpreting it according to whatever our pantry and our knowledge base is. And the sooner more people come to respect that about Black
Mhm.
cooking, our community as well,
Mhm.
then I think we'll be really ready and positioned to take our food, our cooks, our authors, everybody to a new place in terms of how they view what we do. So as we wind down, tell us a little bit about what you cook at home. What are you cooking these days during the pandemic?
What I cook at home is absolutely nothing. I am at the restaurants literally every single day. I work with my staff every single day. When I come home, I have a wonderful wife who usually has something very simple for me. I eat very simple food at home, hummus. Um, I mean, I eat chicken and waffles at home.
Mm-hmm.
Most people don't know. As I got older, I have all these crazy food allergies that I developed. So I can't. I used to love scrambled eggs so much, man. I used to eat them all the time. Can't eat those anymore. But I eat very simply when I come home, and mainly because my brain thinks about food 24 hours a day.
Right.
It does not stop thinking about it. I have a pad by my bed. I have notes in my phone. Um, I probably have 2 gigabytes of recipe notes in my phone. It does not stop. So when I think about food, I mean, I've eaten food all day in my body, regardless if I consumed it or not.
Uh-huh. I can relate to that for sure. Peanut butter and jelly.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
simple. Yeah.
Very simple.
And you know
Um,
what? I just say that too, though. I probably eat tacos every single day. Some type of taco every single day.
yeah,
Simple, easy. Yeah.
and we didn't get to
Oh,
have a chance
champagne.
either.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's right.
oh
So I
man,
was,
you know,
anybody that knows us knows that the
oh, yeah, like
glass was
champagne. You
there.
know, oh my goodness. If I was anything I was mad about COVID is that I cannot drink as much champagne as I used to. You know, I had that nickname in 2016, the Champagne Todd. You know, that was breakfast with champions. I would wake up every morning and have a glass of champagne. And people ask me why. I said, why would you do that? And I said, because the world around out there is such a crazy place. And if you're going to have a good day or you're going to have the best day, you might as well start with the best drink in the world, and
Oh
that's
Lord,
champagne.
so now you're going to go down as having had some kind of an alcoholic dysfunctional problem
You
first.
know, and you know about me, Tony. I can care less. I don't care what they what they say.
Well, what
You
should
know,
we know? What is there something I haven't asked you that you want to tell people about your businesses or your book that we should know before we run out and get a copy? Because it's still on sale. I see them back there in the background.
yes, you know, we are, they can find them online at cheftoddrichards.com, and I sign them and send them out. There are very few copies left, and which I am amazed at that for the amount that we printed, that there's only a few copies left. And I can tell anyone, I didn't never sought out my career as being a chef or being an author. I was a physics major. That was my goal. And my goal was to go work on submarines. And then they told me I had to be underwater for 2 years, and I said, "The hell with that! I'm not."
Right,
you know,
right, right, right.
so let me. You know about making a pivot. Uh, but you never know where life takes you. But what you can do is that once you get there, just be a student of what that is, and the classic terms that we grew up with. Reading is fundamental. Just read. Use your time wisely and read and just become a better person, a genuine better person. And that will be how we're all judged. And you can taste that in every single bite.
Well, I want to say that your character and the way that you will be judged is as a phenomenal person. When it came time to have the first Jubilee dinner, and you and Deborah You know,
Oh, Van Trees. Yeah,
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 Deborah Van Trees just
yeah,
turned it out there in
yeah.
Atlanta. The evening was beautiful. The
It
food was
was.
amazing.
Mm-hmm.
We shot a little video, so if anybody wants
Mm-hmm.
to see it, I think it's out there on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
And just your enthusiasm for the work of others and supporting others. I can think of other times that we worked together when the Jemima Code came out.
Mm-hmm.
Jerry's, you know, you guys surprised me with a chicken and champagne and Pinot party.
Yeah.
And you know, you've just been that kind of a spirit. And so people who aren't familiar with your work, I encourage everybody to get a copy of Soul and to visit the restaurants. Soul is not open yet, right? But Richard's Southern Fried is still open.
Well, it's not. So we shut that down too.
It's
So
shut down.
what is open right now is Lake and Oak Neighborhood Barbecue in East Lake and Oakhurst neighborhood.
Okay, and wrap up with the menu. Tell us about what's special about that compared to other barbecues.
Everything is special. I mean, it's so crazy. We literally go through 500 pounds of brisket a week.
So you guys are turning out brisket.
Yeah, brisket, chicken, it doesn't matter. Whatever you want, just come by. I'm usually there. If I'm not there, my business partner Josh is there. My staff is there. You know, we have a 60-seat patio, which is social distance ready.
Okay.
So you can't sit outside. And we really pride ourselves in that. And our staff takes really great care. And I'm really even more proud of the service that our staff provides. You know, with all these awards that everyone talks about, service is 50% of the awards. And I am truly proud of the service, the genuine care that my staff provides to our guests is what I'm the most proud about.
It's not easy. It's a hard time right now. You know, people are complaining about the servers wearing masks. I saw something the other day where servers got a check that said they weren't leaving them a tip, you know, because they had on masks or something. And so it's an unenviable time for you guys right now.
But my servers, they leave those people to me. See, because I'm a nice guy. I'm a nice guy until you mess with them, you know?
They're like your children.
Yeah, they leave those people to me because you know, you can say whatever you want to say about me online. I really, but if you come in that restaurant and you're disrespectful to them, I mean, I know, I mean, we are all in that restaurant on an average between 8 and 12 hours, and we have to wear a mask all the time. And it's uncomfortable, you know, you can't, I mean, it's cotton, you know, it's hard to breathe. And then we're cooking over, I mean, our grill is, you know, 400 degrees. We have 4 smokers in there. And anyone who has a complaint about something outside of normal complaints, who just wants to be a big old butthole, don't come to our place. Yeah. Because they won't have any problem with you, but I will.
Yeah. Well, and I love that you're mentoring the next generation and helping them to see leadership, to understand how they can be gracious even in difficult circumstances like that, right? And how to not offend the guests, but also to stand your ground about your concerns and safety issues. And so I just applaud you for everything that you're doing. Thank you so much for being here with me.
I applaud you too.
Yeah. So, okay, we're going to look and see if we have some questions rolling in, you guys that are out there. I'm sure I haven't asked him everything you wanted to know about. Again, I want to thank everybody at the festival for your support and for joining us. And it looks like there's a whole long list of them, dude. So let's see. What do you anticipate will be the biggest challenge of your new barbecue restaurant in Eastlake, especially considering it was the location of another barbecue place that didn't make it?
I don't talk about what people didn't do. That's not my place. Our biggest challenge is really making sure that we are a fixture in the neighborhood and we represent the neighborhood in totality. And that we continue to be a neighborhood place first, and not only become this national place that we've gotten a lot of national write-ups and everything for press, but we still know our neighbors. We see them every morning, and that's our biggest challenge, to make sure that our neighbors never feel alienated.
Of course you would, Mr. Community, that's you. What's your favorite dessert in Seoul?
Blueberry hand pies, number one. I would eat those every single day.
What's unique about them? Not special, because everything you do is special.
The Meyer lemon glaze is really, so the blueberries are tart, and there's another type of tart on top of it, which really gives this balance with it. And it really goes really well with champagne.
Tell us a little bit about the pastry. Is it a traditional,
It's traditional
flaky pie crust?
Yeah, flaky, most definitely.
Okay. Both of us have gifted the world with books that offer a modern language for Black foodways that subverted tradition in important ways. How are we thinking about the publishing landscape in this moment?
Oh, wow. That's probably been the first question, there's a reckoning that has happened. It's been a long time coming. I don't think it's not only the publishing world, it's the awards world that has been doing it. I do not believe that the council culture behind it is the right way to go. Long term, I think it's a very short term way of viewing it, but I do believe that it is about time, and that we really have to tell our stories more, and not only tell our stories, but be able to control how we're telling our stories.
I agree. And, I've been a beneficiary of the protest movement in terms of getting my work published and having to be a disruptor, right? No publisher, no literary agent was interested in supporting me and publishing the Jemima Code. And so if it wasn't for digital and new media opportunities, there would be no Jemima Code, right? So I am in 100% support of the idea that we need a reckoning and that it's time for some new voices. But I think people also have to remember that some of us that are getting this attention, it's been a long time coming.
Right? Yes. And work very hard for it. And I can tell everyone, like, if your book did not come out when it came out, I don't know if my book would be sitting here right now with that publisher. I mean, I know that for a fact. I mean, and like I said, I research everything. I know who's looked at my book. And I don't know, I mean, and there was something that people were looking on the other side of that spectrum, and it was just the right time.
And I'm really careful about, in my humility, I am very concerned and have always been careful to be a journalist first and be aware that I didn't want to be part of the story. This was always about the people that I called the ladies and a few gentlemen, right? So I'm aware proudly that the Jemima Code was breakthrough. It broke a stereotype, and that was the goal. The goal was to free all of us, all of you, the next generation. I wanted you guys to be able to say, I choose to make onion broth with onion dumplings and not call it chicken and dumplings. And it's time for the reviewers to figure that out. And that way it can bubble up through the awards process, right? I'm going to take heat for saying this, I'm sure, but we can't have award winners if we don't have nominees, and we can't get nominees if we don't get reviews, and we don't get reviews if people don't come into your restaurant and eat the food.
Correct.
Right?
Absolutely.
Everybody at every level of society has a responsibility in making sure that African-American restaurants thrive and are sustained. And we want to draw attention, certainly with cancel culture, but we also want to make sure that we create solutions that are sustainable. It looks like we have another question. Are you working on any ideas for another book?
Most definitely. Book proposal actually went out Sunday. Was it Sunday? It was Sunday. Book proposal went out Sunday. Will I share what it is? Nope.
Okay. Audience, we need you to, we have a few extra minutes, so please feel free to ask us. We're open to answering almost any question except what your next project is. I can tell you mine. I've been working on my memoir, And that has been like pulling a scab off of
Oh, wow.
a really painful old sore, right? I mean, we talk
Mm,
about the journey and how you got here, and it all looks
mm,
so glamorous and easy today, but there was some really hard days
yeah.
back there, and I had tried to forget a lot of them. So I'm working on my memoir, and we are in the process of getting ready to make a couple of major announcements about my future work. Um,
Uh-oh.
and so, like you, I'm
That's
dangling it
great.
out there and just
Yeah,
saying,
that's
stay
great.
tuned. There's going to be something really big on the horizon coming
I
up.
mean, you talk about something that I try to get people to understand. Like in 2007, 2008, I was nominated for a Beard Award. I was the only one. And I could not rest knowing that I was the only one. It was impossible.
Mhm.
It was impossible that in a country where all these cooks and everyone that I knew before me, who, and sometimes in my opinion, were better than me, weren't recognized. And, how can it continue that way? And, people ask about, the reckoning and everything like that. We're talking about now 12 years later, and they saw this happening again. And yes, you have to shut things down. Things have to just stop at some point. And and there has to be a better way. It has to be a better way where it's a better platform and they have to be honest in these discussions moving forward. You
Right.
can't keep a lot of these things secret because everybody knows the truth. And if you want to make it fair and equitable to everyone, then opening it up and make it fair to equitable. If you don't, then don't do it. And that's where we're at just in general, in all cultures in this country, but especially in Black culture, we're just saying, if you want to be fair, then be fair. If you don't want to be fair, just tell us you don't want to be fair and just leave us alone and we'll go do it ourselves.
Right. And we have to also, I think, be aware, as you've been describing all evening, how much is involved in the journey and developing that reputation and that rapport. It doesn't happen overnight. My resume is really thick, and it took me a long time to break barriers. And it rolls off the tongue now to say 2-time James Beard Award winner, but like I'm proud of that. I want to earn that. I don't want there to be I don't want my awards to be tokenized, right? I want Black people to be respected and revered for our knowledge and our contributions. And so the system does have to change so that we are training up the next generation. I am passionate about food journalism. We need more people doing researching and writing. And so my projects are all going to be turning in that direction. Now that I have brought the attention that I felt was important to bring to the ancestors, I'm going to be looking at ways to do more as you are. And I think that might just be a natural, I don't know, a natural outgrowth of where we are. But to say, what can we do, for the next generation? Let's see, we got another question. Todd, where do you eat out if not in your own restaurant?
Well, I would say in Atlanta, I would frequent, I tell you guys eat tacos every day. So El Tesoro tacos, I eat all the time, bread and butterfly all the time. But I got to tell you guys something. Erica Council's biscuits.
Those biscuits.
I mean, like, if you ever picked up one of her biscuits, it's like picking up a pillow. They're so soft. And hey, Deborah's place. Yeah, I mean, I see it everywhere. I mean, I even people I like being around.
Yeah, when you travel, do you seek out culturally diverse restaurants? Do you look for things that are more similar to what you prepare to compare for comparison shopping? What's your eat out style outside of home?
If growing up in Chicago, growing up in between South Side and East Side of Chicago, and with the lake being right there, I ate a lot of different food growing up. So there was nothing different than having tamales and collard greens at the same time, and then having fried fish on the same, plate as well. So I always look for fresh seafood first. I am crazy about that, and vegetables at the same time. Those two things I will seek out the most. Meat wise, I like meat. I eat it, but I really more into seafood uh, and oysters, shrimp, right away. Uh, and vegetables. I mean, I can litany of vegetables, and the bitter vegetables probably more from my grandmother, like rutabagas. Man,
Mhm.
rutabaga to me is probably the most outside of college.
Can
Probably
you
my
make them
favorite.
sexy?
Oh, rutabagas. I mean, you can make them hash. You can bake them like a baked potato. You can cream them like mashed potatoes. They are
But you're
one of
talking about
my.
baby ones, I'm sure. Like
No, not talking about the
really
big ugly
fresh.
ones.
The
No,
big
the big
ugly
ugly.
ones. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. The uglier the better. The big knobs on it. Those are the kind I like.
Your
Uh,
soul is coming through. Last
uh,
question
okay.
before we wrap up for the night. And thank
Okay.
you everyone for chiming in and for joining us. This is a very kind question. Thank you both for what you are doing for our contribution to American food culture. What can we do to support you aside from purchasing your books and frequenting your restaurant?
That's a great question, and you probably get that question asked often. And uh, what I ask people the most is to have these conversations at your dinner table,
Hmm.
and to have invite people over, whether it's either on a platform like Zoom or if you have family members you're comfortable with, have these conversations with each other. It can't be an isolated incident of conversation, and uh, be an advocate to do what's right in this country. And sexism, racism, uh, all the phobias, they have to go. And we have to be all be advocates of getting all that the hell out of here. So it doesn't, and people say that seems like so big, but if you start in your own household and you expand that out and ripple effect, you'll be surprised how many people you'll be able to touch.
So there's no coincidence that you talked about a blueberry hand pie
Hmm.
as the wrap up for my comment. I end my talks usually um, with a suggestion for something called the pie social.
Mm.
And in the old days, people used to gather and they would bring pies to a central location in town and they would use them to raise money for the church or for children's programs or whatever they were. They had ice cream socials too. And a couple of years ago in Austin, Texas, a friend of mine and I started encouraging people to have peace through pie socials.
Mm.
Peace through pie.
Mm.
Every culture wraps a filling in some kind of a doughy crust.
Hmm.
Empanadas, lumpia,
Hmm.
calzone, pie, apple pie, you name it. Egg rolls. That's every one of those can constitute the concept of a pie.
Hmm.
So, in addition to what you're suggesting, that we get people together, that we invite them to come over and cook for them, serve your kind of pie.
Mm.
Use it as an opportunity to talk about culture and about how many things we share that may seem different, but at the baseline, we discover that we're all very much alike. And if we do that, we can do that in ways that are kind and generous and gracious. And the example of that is the man who we had on screen with us tonight.
That sounds like a new Soul Summit to me. That sounds
As
like Soul Summit,
I'm
2021.
hanging up
You
my Soul Summit shoes, but I want to thank everybody who joined us tonight. And Todd, I love you. Thank you so
love you
much
too.
for this time together. It was a lot of fun. It was not nearly as scary as I thought it was going to be. And we welcome you all to. You've got some other events happening during the festival,
Yes,
and so check
we
out the
have a couple
schedule
more.
online. And also check out all the other talks that'll be part of the festival. And we look forward to seeing you guys sometime real soon. Take good care of each other.